All right, the Green New Deal, climate alarmist, religious cult, they strike again. This time, California Governor Gavin Newsom, our old friend, he's threatening to intervene if Donald Trump kills the $7,500 electric vehicle tax credit. All right, now Donald Trump is expected to eliminate the credit, which was pushed by the Biden administration and the radical left as part of his plan to stop the attack on gas-powered vehicles. Anyway, here with reaction, he's probably one of our favorite senators of all time, Louisiana Senator John Kennedy. Senator, great to have you back. Thank you for being with us. Well, there's a new sheriff in town, and, you know, we actually believe in liberty and freedom and limited government, Senator, and if people want a gas-powered vehicle, I think they should be allowed to have one. I have no problem if they want to buy a Tesla, and I don't think they should force Ford to lose $4.5 billion a year producing cars that their customers don't want.
Well, Sean, I don't hate anyone, and Governor Newsom is entitled to his opinion, but in my judgment, he's a featherweight. If you scratch the surface, you just get more surface. I've met dozens of folks like him, hundreds, in Washington, D.C. They're superficial. They're the kind of people that would have a picture of the Backstreet Boys tattooed on their lower back. Now, the Democratic elites, the woke Democratic elites, with their organic broccoli and their NPR tote bags, love him because he does what he's told. But his ideas are goofy. Take the electric vehicles. Governor Newsom and others convinced President Biden and Vice President Harris to use billions of taxpayer dollars in subsidies and dozens of government mandates to force our automobile manufacturers to make electric cars. But the American people won't buy them. So the car manufacturers have shed thousands of jobs, and they're going broke. It's higher degree stupid.
If you want to, if somebody wants a Tesla, and I have friends that own Tesla, they love it. But Tesla is in that business. But when you force companies to build cars that their customers don't want, like Ford, they lost $4.5 billion. That takes away high-paying career jobs. Okay. Number two, why are we subsidizing one industry over the other industry, except that they want to push their, refrigerator agenda, gas stove agenda? Is there anything we can't have, choice on anymore? But, I don't want a paper straw. I like a plastic straw.
Look, government does not know better than private markets. Governor Newsom does not know better than private markets. Joe Biden does not know better than private markets. We need to get rid of the mandates. We need to get rid of the subsidies, go back to a consumer-driven free enterprise system. But that's the way the neo-socialists who've been in charge for 4 years think. They say they believe in free enterprise, but they try to use mandates and subsidies and redistribution and regulations to control the private market. Leave the free markets alone. The American people they're sane. Most of them are sane and decent and very capable of making their own decisions. And when electric vehicles, when they solve the range anxiety problem, when they lower the cost, the American people have taken a look. But they can't be forced to do this. All Biden and Newsom accomplished was to have thousands of people laid off and our car manufacturers just about to go broke. That's all they accomplished.
Yeah, look, if Gavin wants to spend Californians' money, let him do it in California, but don't force the rest of the country to subsidize his radical agenda. So we went through an election, Senator, where their closing argument is that if you like Donald Trump, you're garbage, he's a fascist, a racist, and a Nazi. That was their closing argument. And I notice a lot of the Hollywood elite, I'd be negligent if I didn't ask you about this, Alec Baldwin calling the American people deliberately ignorant, Sharon Stone saying that Americans are ignorant, arrogant, and adolescent. You have a New York state legislator that wants New York to secede from the Union along with Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Vermont. What is your reaction to all that? I think you're going to have a very unique take.
Here's what I think. I think these people are goofy. They have the right to their opinion, but they're just goofy. They hate George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln and Dr. Seuss and Mr. Potato Head. They think our kids ought to be able to change genders at recess. They carry around Ziploc bags of kale to give themselves energy. To me, to each his own. To me, kale tastes like I'd rather be fat. Now, these people are entitled to their opinion, but they have an unwarranted sense of moral and intellectual superiority. They think they're smarter and more virtuous than the American people. And they think we're not real people. But we were, and we are real people. And in this last election, we got real mad. And we sent a message clearly, unequivocally. And my message to all my friends and my enemies in America is Happy Thanksgiving and stay deplorable, my friend.
But they are a bunch of pompous ass. They are arrogant elitists, and they really do look down on the people that make this country great. And they're out of touch. Well,
they're entitled, Sean, they're entitled to their opinion, but we're entitled to ours. And when we share our opinion, they not only think we're wrong, but we're bad people, and that's not an America we want.
Senator, I have one last question. Do you, come up with these ideas? Is this all extemporaneous when you answer, or do you think about it ahead of time? Because it's too good to think that it just comes off the top of your head.
Sean, this is how the good Lord made me. I have the right to remain silent, but not the ability. And I don't know whether it's divine inspiration or the devil's making me do it, but it just comes out of me.
Well, don't ever stop, Senator. You're doing a great job. Appreciate it. We appreciate the good people of Louisiana. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.